No. Me.
Hello everybody, I'm cocoacosmos and welcome to the next addition in my spooky season series. We will be discussing one of my favorite horror franchises, Saw.
I want to play a game.
I absolutely adore the Saw franchise, simply for the creativity. They were able to come up with 10 different movies, including the spin-off, with each of them having unique traps. 73 traps total. 73 different ways to be tortured in a way that you could still probably live, as long as you roll the dice. And they're coming out with another next September. We gonna talk about that later. Now, some of them are less beatable than others. Amanda Straps. Some you'd probably be better off kicking it, and some you just fuck up but escape with pure luck. But there's one thing for certain, I never get tired of these movies. The plot and characters themselves are incredibly interesting. You got the players who have done things that they didn't think were that bad, and now they're looking straight at their mistakes. You know, some people don't have empathy until it happens to them. And by then, it's not even empathy. They just don't want bad shit to happen to themselves. Then you got the proteges who have taken the teachings to heart. Then you got the main man, John Kramer himself. The supposedly morally gray antagonist who has never killed anybody.
What are you gonna do to us? Me? I'm not gonna do anything.
No, cause seriously, look. In theory, his philosophy makes sense. In execution, pun not intended, I feel like we might have skipped some steps. Though I will give him the time his unborn son passed away due to someone that has no regard for anyone else's lives, and I will give him the events of Saw X, because they really did think life was a game. I almost cried when he walked through the door with a gift and a new lease on life. To find the place deserted, I'm not gonna lie, that hurt me a bit. Now with Saw X being a prequel, I know the shit didn't work, but I didn't think it was an elaborate scheme. Like, my god. The lengths people will go for money. But more on that later as well. In this particular video though, I want to talk about my favorite 3 Saw movies. Now, are they top 3 out of the franchise? My number 1 is most definitely in the running, if not actually number 1. My other 2 on the other hand are incredibly debatable, and that's perfectly fine. This is my opinion and what I like. Let's begin. Number 3, Saw 3D. I'll be the first to admit not everyone was a fan of this. Particularly because of the 3D concept and a lot of post-editing errors, like color correction. I'm not too wild about it either, but the actual movie stuck with me. Especially the opening trap. Really? People should take notes. Never fight over a cheater. And the main story with this guy, Bobby Dagan, lying about how he survived a jigsaw trap, being made into the truth. This is also relatively understandable, but still skipped a few steps there. Bro really said, "Oh, so you want to play a game? Bet." This is what he gets, honestly. But the problem here is, what did the wife do wrong? Everybody else had some hand in spreading his lies, but did the wife actually know? Hoffman was also on one in this one. He was loud but sneaky at the same time. Truly impressive. He was handling business until he took it a step too far and now has to fight for his life for what, the 3rd or 4th time? Another thing that sticks with me, much like Saw 5, or I guess any of them technically, but Saw 5 pops into my head because they realized way too late that it was a team building game. Your life is in someone else's hands, and I would die mad as fuck if I were in their position. If I'm gonna be in a trap, at least let me handle it. I want it to at least be my fuck up if I end up losing. I don't want my life in the hands of somebody incompetent, or someone that truly couldn't give a less of a fuck. When you're put in a life or death situation, most people choose themselves, and I won't stand for that being my last moments. Last thing I want to say about this movie is the Rube Goldberg machine trap for the white supremacists will always have a small section in my memories.
$3.53. What a life is worth to me.
What?
What is this?
Hey, a girl's gotta have a hobby.
Fucking can't be.
I speak for the dead.
Number 2, Saw 6. Just about the same reasons for 3D, but the carousel trap is the one that stuck with me most. He really just had to choose his favorite. But again, what did these people have to do with this? Bro scraped up some strangers off the street and said, this may or may not be your last day alive. Depends on how this guy feels. Like, ain't no way. This guy is literally a part of this just because he's a smoker. Like, goodness gracious. Mr. Kramer is strict. But then we gotta remember, he put a guy in a trap once because he was depressed and tried to put himself in an unwinnable situation. The reason this is my number 2 though, is because the entire point of it makes sense. Again, execution needs work. But who died and made this guy God? Who told him he's in charge of someone else's mortality? Hypocritical, yes, but still a lesson to be learned. And number 1, Saw X. So good. Unbelievably good. This will go down as a classic for me. The traps, the plotline, the acting, the way it was filmed. Chef's kiss. I loved it. I'd pay to watch it again. When you think of the Saw franchise, you either think of the famous bathtub scene, or you will be thinking of the brain surgery trap. Like, sheesh. I give him a pat on the back for attempting, but me personally, I'll just ask how much time I have left. Running down those 3 minutes. This might as well be labeled as an unwinnable game. Because even if you did get the brain piece out, it's not going to dissolve before the timer runs out, as shown in the movie. But even if he didn't hesitate till the last minute, it still wouldn't dissolve fast enough. I cringe watching it, just thinking about it. And if you do manage to beat the trap, what if you take the wrong piece out, and now you've lost some sort of primary function? Nope. Consider me done. I'll write the goodbye letter to those who it were concerned if allowed. It was weirdly satisfying watching the games to be played though. I don't know. If they lost, they lost. It is what it is. Got another small peek into the mind of John Kramer. Maybe because unlike the other movies where some of the victims' quote-unquote sins, so to speak, could be rectified with some like therapy or actually being around those affected by their choices, literally a simple PowerPoint might have gotten through to most of them. These people's actions were made so selfishly. Like, they made the conscious decision to prey on the weak and just didn't give a fuck until their lives were on the line. Like the guy stealing from a coma patient literally only did it because he thought no one would notice. Breaking his fingers is justifiable because now he can't use them to steal again. I could go on and on, but to me, this is the best. I wish I could watch it again for the first time. There's even an end credits cameo with Hoffman. Pleasant surprise. Now about this new Saw movie in the making. Saw XI is set to be another prequel, taking place after the events of Saw X, in which Tobin Bell will yet again be playing his role of John Kramer. I'm just curious as to how far they're gonna take this, because there's only so much prequel you can make considering all things. Like, are they just gonna keep making movies as long as Mr. Tobin wants to be John, or like, what's the plan here? I'm excited, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to beat a dead horse, you know? Saw 3D was supposed to be the last installment, and that was not great. And the other two that came after that weren't spectacular either. I'll be watching regardless. What do y'all think? What are your favorite Saw movies? Let me know in the comments below. Please don't cook me for these bad takes. Cocoa Cosmos out.